AITA for telling my brother-in-law he's a walking advertisement for abortion. My wife was more than 5 months pregnant when we learned that our daughter would not survive outside the womb. We were devastated, as this was a very wanted pregnancy. My wife made the difficult decision to have an induction abortion. The procedure itself went as expected, and she is physically fine. Emotionally, we are both still grieving. I was with her the whole time. Yesterday, we had a family gathering. My family knew we were expecting, and I had the horrible job of telling them we had lost the baby. My parents and sister expressed their sympathies. However, Bill, who is extremely pro-life, throughout the night told my wife repeatedly that she was a murderer and that she killed her own daughter, and all sorts of other awful things that made her feel much worse. I was appalled when I caught him doing this, and my wife was on the verge of breaking down all over. I yelled at him, pointing out how he had gotten a DUI in the past that put another person in the hospital, how he was working a low-paying job selling cigarettes that kill thousands of people every year at a convenience store, and how I had needed to bail him and my sister out financially more than once for medical reasons. Then I ended with, if anything, you're a walking advertisement for abortion. Your mother probably wishes she had aborted you. I took my wife home, furious. Then later, I got a call from my sister. She apologized initially, saying she realized what her husband had said was out of line, but then tried to justify it by pointing out that he was raised to believe abortion was wrong. I should have been more understanding, and it was unfair of me to point out his past struggles when he had been doing better recently. I cussed her out and hung up. But now I'm wondering if I did go too far. AITA for basically telling my brother-in-law he should have been aborted. Update: thank you all so much for the support. My sister called me a few hours ago, and we talked. Turns out she didn't know what he had actually said. He made it seem like he had just said he disagreed with abortion, which I would say is still unacceptable to tell grieving parents. But when I told her what he actually said, she was horrified. She apologized profusely and is now considering leaving him. There were a lot of other red flags in their relationship. She's now fully on our side and can't believe her husband could be so vile. NTA, your Bill's attitude is incompatible with compassion and his timing is atrocious. There are some moments where the person who loses their cool and says something hurtful gets a pass, and having to terminate a wanted pregnancy is up at the top of the list. Big hugs to you and your wife. Bill needs to attend his own life choices. NTA, while some would say your reaction over the top, you were grieving and he had the audacity to say your wife was a murderer when the baby wasn't going to make it. Completely agree. I am in the pro-life camp, but that does not extend to when the child has already died or will not survive on its own according to the experts on hand. Just because you were raised to believe something doesn't mean that you lack the critical thinking skills to see a grey area. NTA, and I'll be praying for you and your wife op. NTA. Usually I'm not someone who agrees responding by going low or insulting, but seriously, screw this guy. He's an awful person. He's not your wife's child's drive, you're your wife. He gets no say at all. If the loss of a child's life is so tragic to him, maybe some sympathy for the horrible choice you had to make should have been his first step. I'm so sorry for your loss. NTA. I'm so sorry about your baby. Incompatible with life is one of the most devastating phrases in the English language. Your Bill brought it on himself. How unkind of him to harass a grieving mother, and your sister isn't much better in defending him. AITA for not letting my sister have custody of her bio kids, who I adopted. When my sister, Annie, was 18, and I was 21, she got pregnant and had a daughter, Sophie. She developed what we believe was postpartum depression, but was never diagnosed as she refused therapy. When Annie's school started up again, our mother took on all childcare of Sophie. As mum took on more childcare, Annie seemed more like her old self, happy, outgoing, generally mentally healthy. Then within 6 months of Sophie's birth, Annie got pregnant again with another girl, Laura, and the cycle of PPD symptoms, mum taking over, and Annie's mood improving repeated. When Laura was 2 and Sophie was 3, Annie decided to move out of our parents' home, alone, and said she wanted our parents to adopt/raise her daughters. They said no. Annie said she couldn't take care of the girls as she had her own life and being a parent made her miserable. My husband and I already had 4 kids of our own. We'd bonded with the girls, and we had the resources for 2 more, so we offered to take them in, and Annie let us legally adopt them before moving about 8 hours away. It's been about 5 years, and the kids are doing well. It was a rough start, but we're now a stable, loving, healthy family unit. Sophie and Laura are 7 and 8, and Annie has recently lost her job and had to move back in with our parents. Annie has now asked for custody of Sophie and Laura. I'm writing custody like that because it wouldn't be custody in the legal sense, as she willingly surrendered all legal rights to the girls and can't get them back. We checked with a lawyer. However, Annie wants the girls to live with her. Initially she said she wanted them full-time and to legally adopt them back from us, which we obviously refused. Then she offered a compromise of alternate weeks, so 50-50 custody. Again, we refused. Given her insistence, we don't even want her around Sophie and Laura, so we've not been going by my parents' house as we typically do. It's been a month of constant badgering, insisting we let Annie bond with her daughters, and allow her to at the very least take them for overnight visits, saying that Annie had PPD 5 years ago, and now she's ready to be a parent. I've responded that we are not babysitters, we are Sophie and Laura's parents. They're in a good place and this will be detrimental to all 6 kids, and Annie doesn't get to step in now when she never stepped up in the first place. The response from my parents and Annie is that I'm being unsympathetic to her PPD and I should let her at least have a chance, rather than deem her unfit without giving her a chance to prove herself. Plus, given that we already have 4 kids other than them, Sophie and Laura could probably do with a smaller household, and saying we're being unreasonable for not allowing Annie to bond with her kids. NTA, you're the parents. She's bored and looking to do a little fun bonding. Protect your kids. She's an aunt at the table at Christmas, by her own choices. No way, you're NTA at all. Those girls already started their life off with a parent that wasn't present mentally and basically gave them up. They don't deserve to have their life be uprooted again with someone so unpredictable. That's just my opinion. Parents that step in and out of their children's lives are the worst. NTA, 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 and please stand your ground. You have provided those 2 little girls with a stable, loving family for the last 5 years. You are genuinely the only true mom and dad they've ever experienced, and it is so unfair of your sister and parents to expect you to relinquish custody of your daughters whom you have raised without any support or help from Annie. PPD is totally possible, but even with PPD, had Annie adopted the children outside of your family, not only would she have absolutely 0 custodial rights to them, but she wouldn't even know them whatsoever. Being a parent is not something to get to be wishy-washy about. NTA. All of the above. Plus, it appears the reason that Annie is now ready to be a full-time mom is that she has lost her job, doesn't appear to have a new role coming up, and is living rent-free off her parents. I've been to this picture show and this is how it turns out. Annie takes 2 very confused and unhappy children to your parents' house. She plays mommy for a few months and gets bored. A new interest comes into the picture, usually a man. Annie no longer wants to babysit because she wants to be with her new boyfriend. Your parents ask you to resume your care of the girls. The girls are now emotionally damaged by abandonment issues, both because their parents, you, left them there and the woman claiming to be their mother has left again. You will spend years trying to help them with these issues. Please stick to your guns. Your daughters are very vulnerable right now and they need your stability and love. NTA at all. She gave up her rights. She wasn't interested at all for 5 years. Doesn't seem like she was much interested before that. It would be a terrible thing for the kids to be uprooted from their home environment and their siblings again, particularly with the chance that Annie will rediscover that having children requires time and effort and that being a parent makes her miserable all over again. You are doing the right thing to protect your kids from your flaky sister. Your parents also aren't the girls' parents. They don't get a say. They enabled Annie and declined to keep the girls themselves. They need to keep their opinions to themselves. Annie is no longer the person that matters. Sophie and Laura doing that kind of back and forth does not sound like a good idea. AITA for demanding my fiancé and his mom to pay for a new wedding address. Me 26F and my fiancé 28M been engaged for 4 months. We're planning on having our wedding on October 18th. My future mother-in-law kept annoying me and sending me suggestions for choosing the right wedding dress, and said that she knew better and tried to get me to approve of wedding dresses that she chose, and when she couldn't enforce her decision she demanded that I take her with me to buy my wedding dress so she could have an opinion. Before I went shopping I called her to ask if she wanted to come but started making excuses about how busy she was with my sister-in-law. I went shopping with my mom and I was able to find a really nice dress, although it cost me a little over what I saved up for, but it was worth it. I made some changes to it and it was perfect. It arrived to my apartment at the end of the week. I made sure it was stored in a safe place so it doesn't get ruined. Yesterday, I got back from my mom's house, and found that my fiancé wasn't home, neither was the dress. I called him immediately knowing that he must have taken it to show it to his mom, since she continuously asked to see it and refused to have me send her pictures of it on Facebook. I was so mad when it was confirmed that my fiancé took it to show it to his mom. He said he was gonna be home in 30 minutes after he went to the supermarket. I waited for longer than I had to, and then when he arrived I ran to get my dress that was buried underneath grocery bags. I took it to check on it and its zipper was broken and the dress itself, fabric, was stretched out. I was like, what the fuck happened to it? My mother-in-law must have tried it on, because it looked ruined. The straps were almost loose. I had to call my mother-in-law when my fiancé told me his mom and sister took turns to try it on. I was absolutely livid. She told me she did nothing wrong and that I was making a big deal out of it. She said she'd get a replacement for the broken zipper, but I told her to pay for a new dress since it was stretched out and no longer fitting. She refused and said that I probably wasn't happy with my dress choice and wanted her to pay so I could get a new one. I yelled at her for trying it on and ruining it, that she and my fiancé were responsible for ruining my dress so they should pay for a new one. It's done, no longer fitting. The straps are in a horrible condition. My mom said she'd pay for fixing it, but I just hate it now that someone else wore it before me. I'm mad at both of them and seriously considering postponing the wedding. NTA. He sucks for caving into their pressure and bringing the dress. His mom and sister suck for destroying your property. Someone needs to pay to have this fixed to your satisfaction, and from the sounds of it, it probably needs to be replaced with an identical non-ruined dress. If his mother and sister won't do it, then he needs to do it, because without him stealing the dress, it never would have been ruined. Remember that. He stole your property because his mother asked him to. The nerve of her to try to shift the blame and say that I was just trying to get money out of her because she said that I no longer like the dress, and refusing to acknowledge, refusing to take responsibility for her awful actions, along with her daughter, is so damn infuriating, and I can't even look at the dress anymore. I'm disgusted, I'm disappointed, mad and about to lose my mind because of what the terrible nonsense she keeps pulling. I'm done tolerating her behavior and letting her disrespect me like this. My fiancé is a 100 times worse than she is, and he's the one who started this. NTA. You are incredibly lucky to have been given such a clear glimpse into what your life will look like if you marry this man. Throw the dress and the man away and go and live your best life. NTA. First, your fiancé took your dress without your knowledge or permission. Second, they tried it on. White-o. That goes beyond common sense and what's right, emo. Think you should let them pay for it and get your fiancé involved. If he doesn't apologize and demand his family to repay you and apologize to you, maybe you should consider all this wedding thing, because stuff like that will keep happening in the future. This was a huge deal for me, and I'm so damn angry. The audacity of this be to take the dress that I worked so hard to get and was so happy to finally find and ruin it, along with her daughter, who clearly hates me and wants to take whatever I have, whether it be a new phone, job, dress etc. They're both bitter, but my fiance is the one I'm mad at the most. What he did was awful. He's refusing to take responsibility for his mom's awful behavior and is saying that the dress still looks fine. NTA. There are so many levels of wrong here, and none of it by you. First off, it's super rude to try on someone else's wedding dress. It's extremely rude to try a dress on to the extent that the zipper breaks. Like, there had to have been some serious tugging and yanking and signs the dress obviously did not fit before the zipper broke. But it's really creepy that your fiance's mom wanted to wear your wedding dress. Did she imagine herself marrying her son? And it's very red flaggy that your fiance treated your wishes so cavalierly. Does he plan to put his mother ahead of you when it comes to things like kids or who he spends time with? Is there a pattern of him ignoring your wishes when it conflicts with hers? Does she make jokes about how you're taking her son away? In the year I planned my wedding, I joined a couple of wedding related FB groups, and I swear to God the most common recurring family issue that got posted was mom or Mill wants to wear a white dress to the wedding, or some other variation of a mom trying to be the bride at the wedding. It is so weird.